at Power Popaholic, and I am talking to Rob Goodson, who is with the band The Goods. How you doing today, Rob?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Sure, sure. So I love the EP that you came out with, your debut EP, I believe. But give me a little bit of history of The Goods. Where did you? I assume you were in other bands before this, and give me a little history lesson.
Sure. We're from Oakland, California. We've kind of been, all sort of sidemen in various Oakland bands for a long time. I've known our drummer Paul ever since we were really, really young. We grew up in the Bay Area together, and went to each other's bands shows, and just have always kind of been connected.
Right.
And then this band kind of started, like so many in recent years, as kind of like a post-pandemic um, thing. We were kind of, I was feeling really sort of cooped up, and the quarantine has started to loosen, and had no interaction with anybody at all, let alone any sort of creative interaction. So I reached
Right.
out to Paul, who plays drums, Paul Wiseman, and
What's the
just
name of the bands that you both were originally from? Would I have heard of them, or are they local, just local bands in Oakland?
lots of local bands. I've played in Sob Stories, The Revolts, Cocktails, Warm Soda, 10 or so
Oh,
years
Warm
ago.
Soda, I know. I know
Yeah.
those. Yeah, Warm Soda. I think I've reviewed them before.
hmm
Definitely.
yeah, lots of local sort of power pop and punk and indie bands. Paul, our drummer, plays in a band called Not, and has played in oh I his he's drummed in a litany of punk and indie bands. I would hate to miss one, but certainly Not, and Culture Abuse he played with for a little while. Hear the Sirens, all kinds of bands. We've both been playing since we were kids,
All right,
and
great. Yeah, because you definitely
the
sound
the
like
list is too
veterans.
long. Yeah, the list is too long. So yeah, and so yeah, I'd kind of been a sideman for a while, and rediscovered songwriting during the isolation of the quarantine.
Right.
Uh, we were just kind of both kind of craving, a little human interaction for one, and for two, a little bit of a creative outlet. And so we just kind of started playing together and writing songs. And it took us kind of a little while to hit upon a batch of songs that we liked. We wrote, nearly an album's worth of stuff over the first year
Wow.
that we were playing together, and then ended up just scrapping the whole thing and kind of starting fresh when we kind of, you know, you got to work a lot of duds out of your system before you start, hitting on the ones that are really good. So
Sure. I mean, this is pretty. It might seem obvious, but I want to ask you what your big influences are, for the Goods, and also how the songwriting evolved. Obviously, you got into that where you start with a bunch of songs and then you scrap them, start again, and then maybe take pieces here and there and put them together to
sure.
finally get what you want. But tell me a little bit about some of the influences that you've picked up.
Sure. Lots of 60s, all of the British invasion stuff. I'm a massive Beatles fan, and early Who, the Hollies, Zombies, all kinds of 70s stuff, 70s rock. Cheap Trick is a big one, and also like lots of early punk rock, all big ones, Ramones, Clash, all those guys. And then lots of 90s punk too, growing up in the Bay Area. We grew up in kind of one of the epicenters of that 90s, early aughties punk scene. And so we were kind of sort of forged in that scene, the Gilman Street scene, and latter period Lookout Records stuff.
Were you into the grunge bands as well, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I could still remember, being a kid and being obsessed with Nirvana on MTV and all that stuff. I mean, that was like, Nirvana and Green Day were like, the reasons that I picked up a guitar. And, I mean,
Nice to hear.
it's
Nice to hear.
grunge, it's punk, whatever. It's, sort of popular 90s rock music, but they're just great. They're just great pop songs.
And your bandmates, do they have like similar musical tastes, I assume? So that's why how you gelled and
Yeah, we were
everything.
really, especially when I started playing with Paul Sharon, our bass player joined a little later, but, you know, Paul, I knew we kind of had a similar background in punk rock. Um, but when we got together and started chatting, we were talking about Towns Van Zandt, and we were talking about Emmylou Harris and uh, Graham Parsons and just all this great kind of songwriter, like Americana songwriter music, and plus all of the artists that I just mentioned, and so we
Right.
found out we were sort of really simpatico in our just appreciation of you know solid songwriting and pop music and just a wide appreciation of stuff from lots of different eras.
All
I
right.
think it
Cool.
all kind of factors in there.
So the I also love the fact that David Jones is dead. That opening track on the EP. I'm correct in assuming it's basically tribute a little bit to Bowie and what happened when on his passing and stuff like that. Uh, what I mean, some of the other songs. Is there any other song there that you wrote that really speaks to you personally?
I think they all do. Really, I mean,
I always ask songwriters, people who are writing songs, oh, it's like your kids, but do you have a favorite kid? Do you have a favorite song, one that basically is like, oh, this is the one that really that's really me.
yeah. I don't know. There's something in all of the four on the EP that I really really like. I mean, um,
Okay.
yeah, lyrically, I don't know. I'm not. As a lyricist, I'm just kind of sometimes I don't exactly know what I'm writing about until I'm done. And then I find
Okay.
little bits of myself in there, and I go, "Oh, okay, so I guess that's what I was talking about." Um, musically, I like the arrangement of Dear Angeline in particular. I don't know, just that sort of ringing guitar thing always kind of gets me.
Me
But
too.
yeah, I like them all. I like them all
No,
really.
there's not a dud in the bunch. It's a perfect EP, in
Thanks.
my opinion. And the next step, I would guess, would be, obviously you're promoting this and hopefully playing around locally and stuff. But do you have more songs in the pipeline? Can we look forward to a full length LP at some point in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We already have a number of, there were only a handful that could, fit on the record. We actually recorded more, one song that couldn't even fit on that
Mm.
couldn't even fit on the 7-inch. So that's sort of the digital only track. But we have an ever growing set list of other songs, and we're actually starting work on our full length now.
Wonderful,
And
wonderful.
at this point, we have more songs than we need. We had to cut ourselves off at some point. Like, okay,
Well, you can keep writing and then save it for the second full length.
yeah, it's tough to sit on stuff for a long time, though. You know what I mean? It's like after not having written anything for so long, and being so cooped up for so long, we kind of just want to get it all out there.
So as far as like your production, the production involved is, do you do a lot of do you have help with the mixing and all that other stuff as far as engineering?
Yeah, we engineer everything ourselves, but Jack Shirley from the Atomic Garden here in Oakland mixed it. We were kind of looking at um, what we wanted to do for the EP and kind of thinking about the best way to sort of spend our our recording budget, so to speak.
Right.
And I know how to record. I have a little bit of an engineering background, and we just knew that, especially because we were a new band and there's a lot of sort of exploration that needs to go on in the studio to kind of get the sound and especially the performances and the arrangements that you really want. You know, being on somebody else's time is not always really conducive to, you know, sort
Yeah.
of giving yourself the space to kind of sandbox the way you need to get an arrangement to come together. And so we
Right.
just figured, hey, you know, for what we'd spend on a recording, let's just build out our own studio. And so yeah, we tracked everything ourselves, and then but on the same token, I'm a believer that it's good to have you know, the perspective of other talented people in the mix. And Jack, I'm a fan of a lot of stuff that he's done. He's a pretty in demand engineer around here, both for recording and mixing.
Very
Um,
cool.
and so yeah, we happily handed it off to him to do it, and I think he did a killer job.
Yeah, no, it came out great. So this is the promo part of the program. Tell me a little bit about where you're going to be playing, and if you have any upcoming dates, live dates, and where you're going to be.
We do. We're playing at we don't have anything booked for the month of August. We're sort of laying low and trying to sort of fill out the track list for the full length. We might have a tentative date in San Jose, sort of coming together soon. All local Bay Area stuff. A tentative date in San Jose at the end of September on the 30th, and in Oakland again at the Golden Bowl, October 15th, 18th, something like that.
Okay,
We're
all
playing
right.
with a band called the 1981, who's
Oh yes, I've heard of them as well. They're actually, I've seen that they're posting on Bandcamp as well.
they're
So
fantastic.
yeah, I've heard them. They're good.
Yeah,
So any if there's any chance you come to the East Coast, let me know. I'll,
absolutely. It's on the list of, we'll get there one of these days.
all right, excellent, excellent. So um, we had talked about developing songs for that full length. Is there any kind of timeline you want to give out to tell me, or you still kind of want to keep that vague right now?
Well, our stake in the ground is we'd like it to be coming out around this time next year. We'll see. Again, the recording studio being a little bit of a sandbox, sometimes you get lost in the sand a little bit. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But we certainly have enough songs, and we certainly are, really hacking away at it as best we can. So
Well, definitely.
this time
Yeah.
next year we'll have 12 or 13.
Awesome. I cannot wait to hear those new songs when they come out next year. So in the meantime, I wish you great luck. Keep writing, keep recording, and keep playing at those venues. And we'll be looking out for it for everyone who is listening in. Basically, Rob Goodson, the Goods EP is out now on Bandcamp, and I think you can get it at a few other places, and it's on Spotify too, I believe. So pick it up. Rob Goodson, thank you so much for being my guest, and we'll stay in touch and see how your career expands from this point on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.